Hey guys, I'm Jax, and this is my spoiler review for the series finale of Barry. If you're new to the channel, thanks so much for clicking on my stupid face, and if you love talking TV, movies, and all things pop culture, give us a subscribe, like, comment, would love to know what everyone thought of the series finale of Barry. Is it the best series finale you've ever seen? In the back half of today? Because presumably we all watched Succession, and then after hours of just sitting on the couch, just trying to figure out where our life would be, what are we going to do without Succession to look forward to? And then we went, oh, I guess Barry's out. I'm excited, I am. I just feel like I need to find my soul, put it back in my body, and emotionally prepare for Barry. I'm not sure how everyone else, watched Succession, had a break, then watched Barry. I myself had a large pizza. Did I eat all of it? Yes, I did. So, the series finale of Barry. It was an interesting finale. I think I liked it. I think I enjoyed it quite a lot. But Barry is just filled with people that are doing bad things and are bad people, but I don't really like them. And I feel like following their journey doesn't make me like them. They might be interesting, they might be compelling, but I don't find myself kind of siding with them and going, no. Like with Tony Soprano, I'm like, no, yes, I get it. Yes, he's this, and they are all incredibly bad things. And if he was a real life person, he'd be the worst man ever. But I like him, and if someone goes against him, I'm like, how dare you, I hope you die. And Succession, bad people doing bad things, and anyone tries to do anything against them, and I'm like, no, I want the main characters to win. I don't care if they suck. I want them to win. Barry is and I think it's a strength of Barry. It's kind of subverting the expectations of a classic HBO show, or it's failing to do what the rest of them do. I don't know. It might be succeeding in what it's attempting to do and say, and being like, hey, why do you like these people? And I think that speaks to how they end the show, which makes me feel like it's intentional. But you never know, it could be not intentional, and I'm meant to like Barry. But I don't. And when I say Barry, I mean the character Barry. I hate the character Barry. He sucks. He's an awful man. He's disgusting. When he's crying in prison and being like, no, I did this to myself. I'm not oh, Barry, my heart. I'm just you kind of just deserve this. I'm just watching it's such an odd feeling, because usually in these circumstances, for a show like this, with these anti-heroes, I find myself rooting for them, despite everything, just the way they position us, and I feel like I am them at times, and I'm following them on their journey. I don't know what Barry has done to make me just hate Barry. And so in this finale, in which Barry dies in a shocking, brief, short, ugly little moments, not some big gun-toting bang, giant shootout where he saves his son and he's bleeding out and he's like, I sacrifice myself for you, son, to live. And all these, these big, wild kind of old Western, kind of this heroic send-off that I felt like he thought he was going to do. And so Barry's got all the guns all over his body. He's like, I'm going to save my son, I'm going to save my wife, and I'm going to die a hero. And he doesn't, because Fuchs and Hank shoot each other out, and there's a big shootout, and it's a big wide shot, and they're all bang, 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 and Barry's not a part of it. And that's really fascinating and interesting. So there's so much I loved about this episode, but it's the way they kind of structured it and crafted it. But there's still so much that I found myself kind of I was watching it and going, oh, but it didn't hit me emotionally. I feel the way I was kind of maybe hoping it would. And also, I do have to be honest, Barry's not my favorite show. It's not my favorite show on TV, and I am emotionally drained from Succession. One of my favorite series I've ever seen in my entire life, finished tonight as well. 8 hours ago it finished, and I did that review, sat down and ate a pizza, then I watched Barry. But I still feel because I actually had another episode to go before. I had 7 and 8, so I had some time to really kind of sink my teeth into Barry before it was done. And it just the way this final season has crafted itself is so bold and exciting. With the time jump, it's so whoa! It's such an interesting way to position him and Sally together. They have a kid, and there's all this stuff going on. And at the same time, when I look at the season, it almost kind of feels like we could have time jumped 2 months or half a year, and it kind of would have felt the same. If it had been 1 year, Fuchs would have been I got tattoos, it's been a year, here we go. And I would have been like, that's where we left off. Cool. So 1 year, 8 years, like, it kind of has more weight. And it kind of is like, it's just so the kid's there, I feel, so they're not running around with a baby. Because everything kind of like, oh, he's been gone for 8 years. He could have been gone for a year and I'd still be like, oh, that's a long time. No-ho Hank, oh my God, he's got this giant company and everything's going well and he's going well. A year still does that. 8 years still does that. It just, yeah, it's for the kids, so I understand that. It's not a negative. I just feel like it's this moment that shocked me to my core. And maybe it's because I binged through that moment. I wasn't watching it week to week. But it feels like, yeah, it's not a gimmick because it's a very clever, interesting choice. But I find myself looking at the series now, and because of that time jump, it kind of feels quite separate and unique and different. And yet I feel like some of the stuff that's the new stuff hasn't been given time to sit with it. Like he kills Christopher. Like Hank kills Christopher, his lover. And I feel like we get a couple of scenes where he's like, with the consequences. And Fuchs is standing there and he's like, I've got my boys, you got your boys. Tell me the truth. Stop acting. Acting's a theme of this show. Sometimes, maybe, whatever, but not really anymore. It's just a gangster show. Tell me your truth and tell me you killed your lover. And it's like, I feel like this just happened. I know it's been 8 years, but those 8 years, we didn't sit with it. Like, the show is quite brief with like 28, 30-minute episodes. And so by having that halfway point, I almost wonder if they couldn't have made 5 seasons and kind of given us more time to deal with this stuff so these things don't feel rushed at the end. Like the son has the final moment of the show watching his dad's movie play out. And I'm like, who is this kid? Who is this kid? He's had like 3 lines of dialogue. He's essentially not a character compared to all the characters we've been following for 4 seasons. So if we got a full season with the kid, like 2 or 3 episodes with the kid and really delved into who he is, him as the final moment of the show would mean more to me. Because just telling me it's Barry's kid doesn't make me care. Like, you need to make him a character. Otherwise, focusing on him at the end, yes, I like the fact he's smiling and he's getting, like, he's also, like, lying to himself because he does know his dad's a killer. Or doesn't he? So there's a lot of questions as well with a lot of things that's going on at the end. So because we haven't spent enough time with things. So yeah, I'm a little mixed on that. So, on Barry's kid and Sally, we have this moment at the end of the show after he's been killed. Barry is dead, and we get a little time jump into the future. In one hand, I love it, because it's like, okay, so she's teaching just like school kids, doing what she loves, helping other people act, that thing that she didn't want to do, and then ran away with Barry. That didn't work out, obviously, and so she's come back, and she's like, teaching people. Maybe she's not the actress, the big star she wanted to be, but she's still in the craft she loves. It's kind of nice and beautiful. She's realized the mistake she's made and she's growing from it and she's adapted and changed. It's really, really nice. Then the son is like, I'm going off with my friends or whatever. And she also has a little line which is like, no, I will not date you, good sire. And it's like, okay, so she doesn't like men now. She's still closed off because of Barry. That's all really, really great. Nice. Then the son watches the movie based on his father. And we get this amazing scene. The actor, I wish I knew his name. And I wish I could figure it out somehow. But my phone is all the way in my pocket. I'm not going to check. But he's the lead actor. And I think he wrote and directed as well for the Wolf of Snow Hollow. The best film ever. Wolf of Snow Hollow. Not the best. I'm being hyperbolic. It's a fantastic movie. He's so good. And we see a fictionalized Hollywood cliche, dumb, stupid version of the story of Barry. And it's amazing and spectacular. I love it. It's so, so good. I even love how it's like they could totally afford to make the blood and all the explosions and guns and stuff look good. But at one point, there's like a headshot and the blood looks so terrible and awful. I'm like, that's amazing. Like, Barry can have the budgets. HBO. They could totally make that look good, but they make it look really cheap and shit. And I found that really, really funny. They have a really good sense of like kind of mimicking and mocking Hollywood and the things that Hollywood are doing and kind of having quite a Hollywood, we don't like you kind of like vibe throughout the series. We get a little bit of that with some Marvel digs early in the season with Sally. And I really, really like the idea of them being like, Hollywood have taken this really nuanced, intense, dark story, this HBO drama show, essentially, and they've made it so basic and so stupid. Barry, because he was shot in the head by Gene Cousineau, and he's like, bang, as he's about to say that he's going to like tell the truth and he's going to turn himself in and all these things. And bloody the Fonz himself is like, I don't care. I don't care. Like, the truth coming out about her, who cares? You need to die. Shoots him in the chest, shoots him in the head in a really shocking moment. Like, this show doesn't really get much like out of me. Like there's been 2 episodes in the show that have really given me loud, like out loud emotional responses. It was the kid karate ninja one in season 2. It's like a car chase, bike chase in the highway in season 3. They're 2 of the best episodes of anything ever. I feel like they're real highlights of the show, far above the rest of the series. Not to say I think the series is bad. They're just absolutely spectacular. 11 out of 10 episodes. And this moment, just bang! And realizing he's been shot. And he's like, oh, wow. But then that moment, headshot. Because you think, oh, there'll be a conversation. There'll be a moment. He'll be like, I'm going to tell the truth. He's like, oh, okay. But no time for talking. Bang! Dead. And by being so ruthless and brutal, like Barry would be in a moment like this, Cousineau has essentially destroyed his legacy forever, which is fascinating. It's heartbreaking. It's really, really clever writing. It kind of makes me angry, and it kind of makes me satisfied. Like, it's odd, because Barry is such the villain of this series. I've never loved Barry. I didn't want Barry to win, and yet Barry dies, but kind of wins. Like, in this weird, twisted way. Whereas Gene survives and is in prison, but loses. Because due to some pretty mildly silly kind of coincidency, kind of just like, this is how it's going to work. They all think he killed him, even though, why would they think he was the facilitator of the murders? I didn't really buy all the cops kind of deciding that Gene was going to be, like, one of the people they thought had killed him and all these things. And they're like, whoa, you really were a good actor. No, he's not. I know it's meant to be ironic and like, ha, but he's not a good actor. But he's such a bad actor, and he so clearly loved her. It just feels a little... But they're trying to build up the story to lead to this moment. And like so many little moments in the show, it's a bit cartoonish and silly. Like, how does Barry escape prison? How does Barry get out of the guy from Prison Break Season 3's house? Like, he's tied up, he's there, he's stuck, he's done. And the guy's like, I'm off to go do this other thing. And you're not going to, like, properly secure him. He just gets out so easily. It's just one of those little cartoonish, silly little moments where you're like, it just feels comically dumb, where it's like it's trying to, like, have both its cake and eat it, where it's like, I don't know if that's the right phrase, but it's like it wants to be a comedy and, like, goofy and, like, a satire and, like, very comical and dark humor, but very, very funny. But it's so dark, it's so heavy, it's so horribly brutal at times, and that weighs down. Where the comedy is sometimes very, very funny, but it's not a comedy anymore. It hasn't been for like 2 full seasons, so it feels like when they do these really outlandish, over-the-top, insane moments that just kind of, take you out of the realism of the show, you're kind of like, that wouldn't have happened like that. And so, yeah, it's just one of those things where the show has kind of gone for a realism, but in this outlandish, insane universe world. And for me, they don't really vibe, where I'm more bought into the realism of the world. And sometimes I just have to go, he just escaped prison. How? Shut up and forget about it. And I just have to forget about it. Otherwise, my mind is like, no. One aspect of this final episode that I really, really enjoyed was the fact that the Raven, after all these things, he kind of decided to, like, side with Barry and give Barry his son back, save. And despite the fact that Barry dies straight after, it still feels like this really beautiful and generous and kind act. And it feels like he's, like, apologizing for being a bad father to Barry, father figure, whatever, that kind of mentor father figure to Barry. And Barry having this son, he's like, well, I did this wrong thing to him. Maybe I can do this right thing for him and his son, and kind of this generational thing, which I really, really liked. It was a really beautiful little moment. And that's like the end of his arc. And I feel like that was the most satisfying end to an arc of all the characters. So in the movie of Barry's life, which is a really fantastic way to end this show, that has been about this hitman and this whole story, yet has been so kind of tied to acting and Hollywood. It's a really beautiful way to end the series. And the kid watching it, and he smiles at the end, and he's like, hey, my dad, the hero. And it's like, oh my God, like, the whole story has been twisted and turned. And because he's killed him, Barry can't, like, admit that he did all those things and he's the bad guy. But it still kind of feels like in theory, just watching the scene and going, boom, that's the scene, that's the end. And the emotional beats, you're like, boom, 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 love it, love it, love it. And then you like sit on it as the credits play and you're like, wait. But why does Cousineau like not say that Barry killed his girlfriend? And that's why he killed him. And why, like, there are other characters in the universe that would, like, explain it. Like, Sally is like, turn yourself in, Barry. Barry, we've got to save this guy. Turn yourself in. And yes, he kills Barry. So she'd be like, oh, Cousineau, you killed Barry. I'm sad and mad about it. But she wanted him to turn himself in and he'd be in prison for the rest of his life. Which, like, it's not the same, but they're not so far away. Like, his son is still going to not have a father. So she values the lie for her son's, like, mental health or whatever, to live in this lie that his father is, like, a hero, but sacrifices Cousineau's entire life and throws him in prison. Like, she is the reason he's in prison. She could explain it all away. And it's like, you could argue, well, no, maybe they all know the truth, but the movie is just so Hollywoodized and insane and wrong because it's like based on true events. And it's like so many movies can be based on true events, but it's actually nothing to do with like true events. But then like the son would be like, I don't know, like the son probably wouldn't respond the way this movie kind of acts. Like he's watching this movie and he smiles at the end like he's a hero. And that feels like that's his truth. Unless it's meant to be this like really meta thing where it's like, it's all about acting. There's some kind of theme under there about acting or something. It's actually not about a hitman. Like it's mostly turns into a show, like a HBO show about a hitman. And the acting stuff is all like kind of pushed to the side. But maybe they're trying to go with some kind of theme where like the kid is now acting like Barry was in season 1 where he's like trying to escape and put on this mask, this acting mask and pretend to be a different person. So he's like living his own lie, his own acting lie. He's putting on a mask, watching the movie, believing this fake Hollywood acting lie that is his father's life. But we don't get any scenes. This is one of those things where I'm saying. It was like if the season was 8 episodes, Barry could have died in like the first 3 minutes of the episode, which would have been crazy. And then like the whole episode could have been the kid living in this world where everyone knows that like, and he knows that his dad is a monster killer. Then he goes to the cinema or at his friend's house or whatever, and he watches this movie where Hollywood is saying, nah, Barry wasn't that bad. Actually, in fact, Barry was the hero. And he smiles going, that's my truth. Forget about the real life thing that I know where he was a murderer and he sucked. I'm going to watch this Hollywood thing and that's my truth. Whereas we don't get any of that. We have no indication that he knows the truth. Because she does say in an earlier episode or in this episode, he's like, what's going on? And she's like, yeah, Barry sucks. He killed people. No, not in war. He just killed people. He's a murderer. But that was in a really big moment of his life, a really stressful, intense moment of his life. And he was like a young kid. Now he's older. He might forget that. He might forget that 1 5-second scene where his mum is like, nah, Barry sucked. He's a murderer. So we get no real true indication of what he thinks about his dad and what the world thinks about his dad, except for what this movie shows us. I think there's just more they could have done. There's more they could have said and shown to really cement what they were trying to say. Because I understand what they're kind of like posing to us by giving us this ending of the kid watching a fake thing of his father. But I think without any context of what he thought before the movie started, it's just a little messier. It's like that same kind of outlandish, cartoonish, what kind of things where you're like, how did that movie get made like this? I feel like I'm jumping through hoops trying to like explain it where you could have just explained it. Like I would love a scene where Sally and Cousineau are looking at each other and he's like, tell them the truth. And she's like, what truth? You murdered your girlfriend. You murdered Barry. Boom. She's chosen her son and her son's mental health. She's chosen her family. She's angry he killed Barry. And like, there's just so many little things. And yes, the finale was not bad. It was good. It was pretty good. But there's so much where I'm like, oh, I could have had more. Like, speaking of things I wish we'd had, Hank gets shot. He's like, bang. Fuchs just shoots him. The Raven kills him. And there's that beautiful moment where his hand is on the golden hand of his lover he killed. And he's dying. And the acting's amazing. The visual image is beautiful. And I'm like, we're so rushed to here. I feel like he just killed him. I feel like we haven't had a single moment where Hank's been alone emotionally dealing with this, or there hasn't been enough scenes where I'm like, wow, Hank has really changed. Like, he's like, you've changed, you're pretending to be a different person, tell me the truth of who you are. Hank seems like the same guy. He's like laughing and funny. They shoot a bazooka and he's like, where's the second rocket? He's like, I only bought one rocket. The budget. And you're like, ha 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 ha. Hank, classic Hank. And it's like, he just murdered his lover, his like life lover. Like the love of his life. It's just, I hate Hank now. It's such a disgusting, awful moment for the character. They don't let us live with that, deal with that, and come back around and like him again. There's just a couple of scenes, rocket launcher, hoobity-ha, and then he's like, gets killed. He doesn't even get a final moment with Barry. Like, the series is so rushed at the end. It's kind of odd because it's taken its time, and then this season, by doing so much in the first half, then taking a full epi to not do nothing, but to build it all up again, then the final 3 feel so short. Maybe this season needed to be at least 10, so we go those 3 episodes. Like, I would have loved just a full Hank episode post Time Jump, then a full Fugues and other characters. Like, we could have just, I don't know, maybe just have all of them in all those 3. But episode 5 should have been 3 episodes and given us more, done more with the characters and let us sit in it. Because despite me being like, oh wow, we're really just sitting here in this cabin in the desert where they live and being a kind of jarred by it, I think if they just stayed there and really delved into the characters and where they are now, then when we get to the final act, it would have had more weight and power and they would have had more time to do the things that I feel like they need to do to make this final season as spectacular as it could have been. But that being said, it was pretty good. Like, I had fun. And I was like, oh, he got shot in the face. That's horrifying. But, yeah. Like I said at the start, I never loved Barry. So I'm not, like, sad he died. I'm just shocked. I'm like, oh my God, they killed him. That's crazy. But I'm also like, he deserves that. He sucks. He really sucks.